I slammed my fists into the steering wheel so hard it shook the rearview mirror loose. God damn it. I yelled, my voice raw in the closed space of the car. Outside, the rain hit the windshield in staccato bursts, making the world beyond the glass smear into something even uglier than how it already felt inside me. The call from Amanda still echoed in my ears. Final this time. No going back. You need help, real help, she'd said. I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. The rain smeared the city lights into pale veins of color. I sat there gripping the wheel until my knuckles burned, the engine ticking in the cold. I should have gone home. Should have gone anywhere else. Instead, without really thinking, I pulled away from the curb, the tires squealing slightly on the wet asphalt. I ended up in a parking lot by the river, the kind of place where nobody really had a reason to be unless they were up to something. I killed the engine. Saturday. Listened to the hollow thud of the rain on the roof. Thought about the bottle in the back seat, the half-full fifth of Jameson I hadn't had the guts to toss yet. A knock on the passenger window made me jump. He stood there, small, wiry, bundled in an old denim jacket with a knit cap pulled low. He pointed at the lock with a gloved finger like he expected me to open up. I cracked the window 2 inches. What? I barked. Mind if I sit for a minute, he said, voice calm, too calm. Not asking for money. Just trying to get out of the rain. I should have told him to screw off. Should have driven away. Instead, I hit the unlock button. He got in quick, shut the door, and sat back, breathing out slow like he'd just crossed a battlefield. The smell of wet clothes and cigarettes filled the car. For a while, we just sat. Him staring out the windshield, me glaring sideways at him, tense enough to bolt. You look like hell, he said finally with the ghost of a smile. Thanks. You waiting for someone? I shook my head. No. He nodded like he understood something deeper than my answer. Name's Walter, he said, sticking out a hand. I took it. His grip was strong but not aggressive. Ryan, I said, almost reluctantly. You ain't the first to come sit here, you know, Walter said. This spot, it's kind of a magnet for the broken ones. Yeah, well, I muttered, I'm just trying to be left alone. You think you want that, he said, but I bet you don't. I laughed bitterly. You don't know me. He tapped his chest lightly with 2 fingers. I know what this feels like. Trust me. The rain softened to a mist. The inside of the car smelled like damp wool and memory. I didn't say anything. I didn't have anything left to say. Walter reached into his jacket and pulled out a battered thermos. He unscrewed the top and poured steaming coffee into the lid, offering it to me. I hesitated, then took it. It smelled like cheap diner brew, sharp and acrid. I drank. You drink too much? He asked, conversational, like asking if I watched football. I almost choked on the coffee. What the hell kind of question is that? He shrugged. The kind that needs asking. I set the cup down hard in the cup holder. Look, man, I appreciate the coffee, but you're not ready to talk about it yet, he finished for me, nodding. That's fine. Just know that sitting here, pretending you're the only one who's ever fallen apart, that's a lie. The words hung in the air, sticky and real. Walter didn't push anymore. He just sat there, humming tunelessly, tapping his foot against the floor mat in some slow rhythm only he seemed to hear. And for reasons I still can't explain, I didn't tell him to leave. I didn't drive away. I just sat there with him, 2 broken men listening to the rain. 2 days passed before I went back to the river lot. I told myself it was coincidence. That I just needed space. That it wasn't about him. But the second I pulled in, he was there sitting on the hood of a different car this time, peeling an orange with the slow care of a surgeon. Same jacket. Same damn knit cap. He didn't look surprised when he saw me. You hungry? He asked. I stayed in the car. He walked over, leaned down to the window. I got some extra. Not poisoned, I swear. I didn't want food. I didn't want a conversation. But I got out anyway. We sat on the edge of the concrete wall overlooking the river. Wind cut through my sweatshirt, made my ears sting. He handed me half the orange. His fingernails were cracked and yellowed. You live in that car? I asked. Walter chuckled. That one? Nah. That's just a friend's. I sleep behind the dry cleaners up on 6th. You homeless? He wiped his hands on his jeans. Depends how you define home. I chewed the orange slice slowly. I hadn't eaten since the night before. My stomach hurt from the acid, but I didn't stop. You said the spot's for broken people, I muttered. What's that mean? He nodded like he'd been waiting for me to ask. It means I sit here every day and every now and then someone like you shows up. Shoulders up to their ears. Eyes hollow. World on fire. That obvious, huh? He tilted his head. You wear it like a jacket. I didn't answer. We sat there a while, watching a barge push upriver, loud and slow. You working? He asked eventually. I shook my head. You clean. I turned to him. What do you care? He didn't blink. I ask 'cause I've been on both sides of that line. And if you're not clean, that's your business. But if you are, I can tell you what comes next. I looked back at the water. I'm not using. Not lately. Drinking? Silence. That's what I thought, he said. You think it's helping, don't you? No, I said quietly. I just don't care anymore. Walter reached into his jacket and pulled out a weathered deck of cards. Slipped them from the box, shuffled. The motion was smooth, practiced. You want to play a hand? What kind of game? Doesn't matter. It ain't about the cards. He dealt 5 to me, 5 to himself. We didn't even look at the hands. You think you've hit bottom, he said, setting his cards down untouched. But you're still negotiating. Still deciding what you're willing to lose. I clenched my fists. You don't know what I've lost. I know what it looks like when a man stops fighting. You haven't. That's why you're here? I stood abruptly. You talk like you've got some answer. Like you're some street corner prophet. He looked up at me, expression steady. No. I don't have answers. But I've got questions. The right ones. I didn't move. My hands were shaking. From cold. From memory. What do you want from me? I asked. Nothing, he said. Except one thing. What? You come back tomorrow. Just once. And you bring the bottle with you. I narrowed my eyes. Why? Because you're not strong enough to throw it away yet. But I am. I stared at him. Something twisted in my chest, anger, fear, maybe grief. It made my throat tight. I don't know if I can, I said. Then don't. Just bring it. He packed up the cards and stood. Same time tomorrow. Then he walked away. Didn't look back. I didn't bring the bottle. I brought 2. They clinked in a plastic bag as I walked toward the river wall, heart pounding like I was smuggling explosives. Walter was already there, sitting cross-legged on the same patch of concrete, a steaming paper cup in one hand, the other resting in his lap like a stone. He glanced at the bag and then back out over the water. Double or nothing, huh? I set the bag down between us. Didn't know which one would hurt more? He didn't respond right away. Just sipped his coffee and let the wind talk for a minute. Then, let's make a deal. I eyed him warily. What kind? I don't ask you why. You don't ask me how. I waited. If you hand those bottles to me now, right now, I'll trade you a story. One that'll make you understand why I'm still breathing. Why you might want to be. I looked down at the plastic bag. My fingers gripped the handles so tight they went white. I'm not promising miracles, he said. I'm just offering one goddamn reason. I slid the bag toward him. He didn't touch it. You sure? No, I said. But I'm here, aren't I? He nodded. Then he picked it up, opened it, and without ceremony poured both bottles out right there over the wall. Liquid splashed on the rocks below. The scent of whiskey punched the air. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat down hard on the concrete, arms around my knees. Walter wiped his hands on his jeans. You ever shoot heroin? He asked. The question hit like a slap. No. I did. 15 years ago. Shot it behind a gas station with a kid named Mason. He was 19. Thought he was invincible. First hit we took together, he OD'd in the grass while I watched. Didn't even try to call 911. I just ran. The words came without drama. Just flat. Matter of fact. You know what that kind of guilt does to a man? I didn't answer. He wasn't waiting for one. Every day for the next 6 years, I chased that first high trying to forget his face. Every night, I saw it anyway. He turned his coffee cup in his hands. Then one day, I woke up in an alley with a busted rib, no shoes, and a note pinned to my shirt. It said, "Stop dying already. M." I blinked. Mason? He looked at me. Yeah. He was gone, but he wasn't done with me. I didn't know what to say. Walter leaned closer. That note wasn't magic. It didn't sober me up. It didn't take the pain. But it woke me up. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn envelope. Inside was the note, creased, stained, torn along the edge. He handed it to me. It looked like it had been through hell. I stared at it for a long time. You think I'm some river rat with spiritual wisdom, he said. I'm not. I'm just a guy who ran out of excuses. I gave the note back. My throat was tight again. I don't know how to stop, I said finally. Then don't, he replied. Just start pausing. That's how it begins. I nodded. Not because I believed him, but because I wanted to. He stood. Meet me at the diner on Rosewood tomorrow morning. 7 sharp. Bring an appetite. For what? For eggs. And a next step. He walked away again. No drama. No goodbye. I stayed there long after he was gone, the smell of whiskey still thick in the air. But this time I didn't feel alone. The diner was half dead when I got there, pale light, cracked vinyl booths, and a waitress who looked like she hadn't slept since the 90s. Walter was already at a booth near the window, coffee in hand, reading some torn-up paperback with no cover. He didn't wave when he saw me. Just nodded once and slid the menu toward the opposite seat. I sat down. My hands were shaking. No idea if it was nerves or withdrawal or just the fact that my insides had been scrambled for so long I didn't know what calm felt like anymore. "You eat?" he asked. "Not yet." "Then do it." I ordered eggs and toast. He got oatmeal and something that looked like it belonged in a retirement home. When the waitress left, he leaned forward. "First question," he said. "What would it take to make you stop drinking?" I stared at him. "I don't mean what would make you want to stop. I mean, what would make you actually do it? What cost?" "I don't know," I said. "Bullshit." I exhaled. "Maybe if someone I loved died because of me." He nodded slowly. "So you're waiting for that?" I didn't answer. The food came. We ate in silence for a while. "You got family?" he asked. "Not really. Not really. My mom passed 3 years ago. Dad left when I was 12. I've got a sister, but she won't return my calls anymore. Amanda was the last one holding the rope. She cut it. Yeah. Last week." Walter sipped his coffee. "She right?" "I guess." He looked me in the eye. "Good." I flinched. "Good. Means you've still got something left to feel ashamed of. Shame's a fire. You can either burn in it or you can use it." I pushed the plate away. The eggs tasted like paste. He reached into his coat and slid a slip of paper across the table. "There's a meeting tonight. Church basement off Elm and 13th, 7 o'clock. First-timers sit in the back. You don't even have to speak." I didn't touch the paper. "I'm not ready for that." "You never will be. What if I can't stay sober?" Walter leaned forward. "Then don't stay sober. Stay today sober. That's all." I swallowed. Something in me started to fracture again, but not the way it had before. Not panic. Not rage. It was something quieter. Like a crack in a frozen lake beginning to spread. "I've tried," I said, voice low. "You tried alone." We sat there for a long time. People came and went. Coffee was refilled. A baby cried in a booth behind us. He didn't say another word until I picked up the slip of paper. "I'm not promising I'll go," I said. He smiled, just barely. "You don't have to. The fact that you're holding it means you already left the first fight behind." I tucked it into my jacket. Walter stood. "You come to that meeting tonight, I'll be there. If you don't, well, I'll still be around." Then he walked out into the cold without another word. I didn't finish my toast. I just sat in that diner, staring at the paper, my hands finally still. I circled the block 3 times before I parked. The church looked like it had been dragged out of some Midwest postcard, red brick, white trim, stoop stairs like buckled knees. The door to the basement was propped open with a folding chair. Laughter echoed up from below. I almost didn't go in. My hand hovered over the key in the ignition. I could leave. No one knew I was here. I could drive to the next liquor store and be invisible again in 30 minutes flat. Instead, I opened the door and stepped out. The stairs creaked. The basement smelled like old wood, weak coffee, and mildew, the scent of uncomfortable truths. There were maybe 20 people sitting in folding chairs in a loose circle. They were talking like they knew each other, but not too well. I recognized that tone, that careful balance of distance and safety. Walter was there, leaning against the back wall like he wasn't sure he belonged either. He saw me. Didn't smile. Just nodded. That was enough. I took the last seat in the far corner next to a guy with a buzz cut and a name tag that said Don. Don didn't look at me. Didn't have to. A woman in her 60s called the meeting to order. "Hi, I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic." "Hi, Sandra," the group replied. They went around. Each voice held something different: regret, anger, a bit of trembling hope. One woman talked about pouring out vodka into a vase of flowers and watching them die. A guy in overalls said he used to drink mouthwash when he ran out of money. No judgment. No drama. Just honesty like a hammer. I didn't say anything. Nobody made me. Walter didn't speak either. Afterward, people milled around. The coffee was awful and there were cookies nobody touched. I stayed in my chair, heart pounding, palms slick. I felt cracked open. Like some part of me had come out in the light without permission. Walter came over. "You did it." "I didn't do anything." "You showed up." "That's not nothing." I looked at him. "Did you go to a lot of these?" He nodded. "Still do. Not because I have to. Because I get to." "That sounds like bullshit." He laughed. "Yeah, it did to me too. The first year. Then one day it didn't." We walked out into the cold. My breath came out in clouds. For the first time in weeks, I realized I wasn't shivering. Walter pulled something from his coat, not a flask, not a card, just a small river rock, smooth and flat. He pressed it into my palm. I picked that up the night I almost used again, he said. Kept it in my pocket since. Reminded me that weight doesn't always mean burden. Sometimes it's just something to hold. I stared at it. You giving this to me? No. I'm lending it. What if I lose it? Then you're not ready. I squeezed it tight. He turned to leave, then paused. Tomorrow's Sunday. Same diner. You in? Yeah, I said. I think I am. He nodded once, then disappeared into the dark. I stood there for a while, the rock still warm in my hand. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like drinking. Sunday came gray and windscrubbed. I sat in the diner booth at 6:57, coffee already going cold in front of me. Walter was late. I told myself I didn't care. Told myself it didn't matter, that I could do this alone. But I checked the clock every 90 seconds. 7:09. He finally walked in, moving slower than usual, his jacket clinging to him like it had soaked in the morning damp. He sat down hard, like every joint hurt. You all right? I asked. He waved it off. Lungs? Old war with new rules. Doc says it's manageable. You should be resting. He snorted. And miss your pretty face? We didn't order food this time. Just coffee. Last night was big, he said. How you feeling? Like I opened a door and forgot where it led. He nodded, his fingers wrapped around the mug like it was keeping him tethered. Good. That's the edge of something. Not everyone gets that far. I shifted. You said you had questions. You always have questions. He sipped. Then, if you could get Amanda back today, just like before, would you? The question hit harder than I expected. I looked away. I don't know, I said. She deserves better than who I was. That wasn't the question. I ran a hand through my hair. I think I'd want her to see this. Not to get her back. Just so she knows I didn't vanish. He sat with that. Then nodded. That's a real answer. You ever have anyone walk out? My daughter, he said, flat. 10 years ago. After Mason, after the spiral. She sent me a letter once, said she loved me but couldn't watch me kill myself. Have you seen her since? He shook his head. Sent her a letter last year. Just said still breathing. I didn't know what to say to that. So I didn't. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded flyer. There's a guy I want you to meet. Does volunteer drywall work for shelters. Ex-junkie. Straight shooter. Doesn't do pity. I looked at the paper. You think I'm ready for that? I think you're bored with just surviving. That one landed. I folded the flyer and slid it into my pocket. I'll call him. Tomorrow, Walter said. Don't let it sit. Okay. He leaned back and looked at me like he was weighing something. You believe in God, Ryan? I stiffened. No. You sure? I believe in not giving up. Does that count? Walter smiled. That's a better place to start than most churches offer. He pushed his mug aside and stood slower this time. You've got two paths in front of you. One ends in fire. The other in smoke. I suggest walking toward the one that lets you breathe. I looked up at him. You always talk in riddles? I only speak what I had to hear myself. He walked out without waiting for my reply. I stayed another half hour. Wrote Amanda's name on a napkin. Then crossed it out. Then wrote it again. I didn't know where this ended. But for the first time, I didn't need to. I didn't see Walter for a week. I called the drywall guy Dave like he told me. Worked 2 days hauling sheets and patching holes in a battered women's shelter downtown. My arms ached. My back screamed. My hands stopped shaking. Every night, I skipped the liquor store. Every morning, I kept the Riverstone in my pocket. By day 6, I'd memorized the pattern of Dave's laugh, this short bark that came when he talked about the old days like they belonged to someone else. He offered me a permanent spot. I said I'd think about it. But I kept checking that diner. Same booth. Same bad coffee. No Walter. It was the following Sunday when I found him again. Not at the river. Not at the diner. At the ER. A nurse called me, my number was in his jacket on a folded napkin. He said you're his emergency contact. Are you family? Yeah, I said before I could stop myself. Pneumonia. Lungs full of regret and rainwater. His voice was gravel when I walked into the room, but his eyes lit up. Took you long enough, he rasped. You were the one hiding in a hospital bed. Didn't want to make a big deal? Just needed a breather. I sat by the bed, the plastic chair cold against my back. You scared me. He chuckled. Good. Means you care. The monitor beeped slow and steady. I watched his fingers twitch under the blanket. I started patching drywall, I said. No splinters yet. That's so? Yeah. Got paid in leftover pizza and the worst cup of coffee since yours. His smile crooked. You staying sober? 1 day at a time. Still got the rock? I pulled it from my jacket, set it in his hand. He closed his fingers around it, held it for a while, then offered it back. No, I said. You keep it. He looked at me. You sure? I don't need it to remind me anymore. I remember on my own now. Walter's eyes closed for a moment, not sleep, just something heavier. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. Frylia. Ryan, he said. Yeah? You don't owe me anything. I know. But if you want to repay me, I do. Then do this for someone else. When they come to the river, when they sit in the car and think no one sees them, I will. Promise? I promise. He let the rock fall into his lap. Good. Then I can rest. I sat there for hours. We didn't talk much after that. But he knew. And I knew. Walter was discharged 2 days later. I helped him get set up in a low-income senior apartment just a block from the diner. Every Thursday now he hosts something he calls Coffee and Lies. Just an excuse for broken men to come and tell the truth without being afraid of it. As for me, I'm not a hero. I'm a man who stood still long enough to face the mirror and not flinch. I patch walls during the day and some nights I still shake. But I haven't picked up a drink since the river. Amanda sent a letter last week. Said she heard from my sister. Said she's proud of me, whatever that means now. I haven't written back yet. But I will. And when I do, I'll tell her this. He didn't save me. He just reminded me I was worth saving.